Welcome to the mother freaking chit chat. I am so excited to talk to you guys this week because this is one thing that I do love AI for. And one thing that I love Claude for is I do things like a lot of analytics, a lot of data, a lot of keeping track of things within my Claude. And one thing that I do is I download the analytics from the podcast every single week, week over week, and I upload them into Claude, and Claude will tell me like where we're at with the show. And this week is a really big week because last week was the show's biggest debut, which means there were more listens, there were more not even just like listens, but the listening time has significantly increased week over week. Honestly, it's the craziest linear projection that I've ever experienced. Most things in life are not linear, and I feel like this is one of those things where they tell you about podcasting, and what I've learned about podcasting from the people who are killing it, like they're in the top of the top, is it feels like the craziest, the longest slow burn of your life where you start a podcast and nobody listens. Like I remember literally if I look back at the data from my original like shows, there's like, I don't know, maybe 10, 20 if I'm lucky, like listens and streams and downloads on those shows. And I don't know how many episodes that lasted before it felt like people were listening, but it felt like it was a long time, and also not a long time at the same time. Like I started 2026 and I told myself I'm going to dedicate and devote myself to my solo podcast. And I've done podcasting in the past. So I had a podcast with my sister. I think we started in like 2022, and we did it for a couple years, and then I needed to take a break from that because I felt like I'm the younger sister to Turn Up with Tansy. If you don't know who that is, you need to go check her out. She's a beast. She is incredible. She is magical. But being the younger sister to a star is both incredibly fun, and I've learned so much from her. But at the same time, I feel like I've lost myself along the way because my entire life I have followed in the footsteps of my big sister, which is amazing. But at the same time, I I lacked identity even as a grown woman. Like, who am I without her as my big sister, especially in my career and in my brand? And so we took a step away from that selfishly for me because she would have kept going. She is like the most selfless person ever and is always wanting to share the spotlight, but at the same time, like I didn't want to share her spotlight. I wanted her to have her spotlight. I wanted to create my own. And I had to go through a season where like a year and a half of deciding what does that feel like and what does that look like for me and what am I even going after? And it's been a lot of work and it's been a lot of introspection, and I feel like I now have stepped into uncovering what my identity looks like, and I feel like there's no arrival at that. I've learned like there's always work to be done, and your identity is always shifting and it's always transforming and changing and doing different things. But I feel like I'm my own person at this point, and regardless of where that identity takes me, I feel convicted in being my own person. And so all of that to say, we brought back our podcast last week, which is a shared sister podcast, and we don't, there's like no niche. It's just like we kind of get on, and we are abnormally close for sisters. And so there's like a lot of banter. And so it's really fun. But all of that to say, I started 2026 and I was like, I'm going to dedicate myself to my solo podcast, being in the niche of personal brand, in the niche of thought leadership, in the niche of online business and female founders and coaching and mentorship, et cetera, content, social media. Like that is what I geek out on that stuff. And so I wanted my podcast to be all about that. And I would get on and I would do solo podcasts. And so we are more than halfway through the year, and I have created a podcast every single week for all of 2026. And I had never done that before. So when I tell you this, I'm telling you this because if you're the type of person where you have your own podcast or you're thinking about a podcast, or even like let's draw some like parallels here, like you post content to social media or you have a YouTube, whatever that may be, there's always a slow burn period. Always. Like there's always a moment where you feel like no one is paying attention to me. And I have had to check myself, especially with this podcast, a million times of, am I doing this so that people listen? Like, yes, I am. Okay, let's just like call it like it is. Yes, I want you to listen. I'm so happy that you're here. It makes everything more fun knowing that people are listening to this. But the question being, Like, what am I actually doing this for? And I will say, this podcast has allowed me to evolve as a leader. It has allowed me to evolve in my thought leadership, in my um, direction of what I talk about. It has allowed me to find my voice a little bit more. It has allowed, like, even creating this podcast has strengthened my chit chat short form videos. And this podcast has also opened my mind to, okay, I want to have a YouTube where I show my face and I talk. And I also want to have this podcast. Like, I want to use my voice everywhere. And this podcast is part of the direction of that. It's allowed me to come into that and believe in myself. Um, and gosh, we're not even fully like 7 months into the year, and I'm not going to stop doing what I'm doing here because I love this. And I just want to say thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for I get DMs from you guys all the time that you love this show, and it means more than you will ever know because I dedicate a lot of time to this. I dedicate a lot of thought to this, and the payoff for me is not that I have this famous podcast. The payoff for me is that I get to connect with you. And I'm not even kidding. That's what I'm in this for. And so there's so many things I want to talk about today. I have made the decision that there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes in my business and have been for the last month and a half to 2 months. And I'm not going to share about it publicly for a little bit because sometimes I check myself on that. Like, if I share about what's going on behind the scenes in my business, am I doing that out of, like, am I prioritizing what's good for you and what you could take away from it? Or am I prioritizing like claiming this for my ego or something like that? And all of that to say, I do want to share about it eventually because I think that there's lessons involved. But right now I'm going to keep it close to my chest and just let you know that the biggest thing that I've learned through what is going on in my business right now is that I I love content. I love social media. I love talking about showing up and creating a personal brand, and I love all of that. But what I love even more is I love thought leadership. I feel like there's not enough women that see themselves as thought leaders, and there's not enough brilliant women who are already so talented and so good at what they do, not seeing themselves as a thought leader that could quite literally change the world. And so I want to have a hand in creating that shift. I want more women to be thought leaders. And so I've been studying thought leaders for the last several months, like studying them, like what makes them tick, what helped create their well-known and well-respected thought leadership. Like, all of this stuff, I've been studying it so that I can turn it into something. I also, every time that I'm studying something, which is all the time, I use it on myself, and I trial and error like you would not believe. You probably don't even realize that I'm doing that, but I'm constantly experimenting with myself before I bring it to you guys. Whether that is in a paid experience or a free experience, I'm not going to bring anything to you that I haven't studied and experimented myself. I come from like I studied science in school. I studied pre-med, and I love science. Like, I still study medicine. I still study everything to do with science. I'm obsessed with. And so the scientific method is really a part of my my daily thought process, my daily life, which, if you don't know what that is, it's basically like having a hypothesis, creating an experiment, and then testing it and then reviewing data basically to decide, is this worth the thought? Is this worth the question? Um, I feel like I'm going off on a tangent, and there's so many things I want to talk about right now. So the one thing that I wanted to say was that I made this decision that I will only be working with women in my paid spaces. Obviously, I can't control who consumes my free content, but in my paid spaces, I will only be working with women who are wanting to prioritize their mastery of their own craft, and women who do not prioritize, like, I'm really over this conversation of how much money you make. I'm over the conversation of status. I'm over all of these conversations of surface level results that, to me, that's cool if you want that. I'm not driven by that. Like, do I want to make a lot of money? Hell yeah. I mean, come on, we all do. But I've said this to you guys a million times on different episodes. Like, it has never been a part of me where I wake up in the morning and I'm like, gotta make money today. Do I want to make a lot of money? Yes. I'm going to do a lot of good with a lot of money, 100%. I am driven by becoming the best at what I do, period. I am driven by excellence. And so I want women in my proximity that are also driven by that, where they are obsessed with what they do and they're obsessed with becoming the best at what they do so that they can give it to other people. That is the whole point. So I've made that decision that I'm going to be very picky, very choosy with who I work with in proximity to me, because that's the type of woman that I can't impact women who are not driven by that. It's just not in my wheelhouse. So that has been like a really big relief, and it's been exciting to think about and to daydream about. And yeah, so part of this episode is me kind of like, documenting my evolution in my leadership and in my business and in my brand. And this has been a big evolving moment where I feel like I've found clarity, and it just feels really relieving and exciting at the same time. Okay, we're not even into the episode yet. Can you believe this? Hi, I love you. I hope you're having a really good day. And I hope that you're drinking water and you're staying hydrated and you're smiling. And if you're in the car, roll down the window and take a big gulp of fresh air and just thank God for another day. Okay. This episode is for that specific woman that I just described. And this woman, if you are her, which I'm sure you are, because I don't feel like I honestly I'm at this point where I believe that I'm a magnet for my match and you are my match. And I can guarantee that you're creating content very consistently. You show up every single day and you post regularly. You are following the advice that you've been given or that you've seen on social media. You are doing the work to stay relevant and to create a brand. Like you are doing that work. And yet all of that effort feels like it's not equating to the momentum that you expected to be there. And the visibility that you were like, I feel like I'm going to have visibility after 6 months of consistency or 1 year of consistency, and it just isn't arriving. The engagement feels very non-existent, and the followers are here and there, but it's not in the masses as to which I would think it would be. And I can guarantee you're also a person that you're like, I don't need hundreds of thousands of followers, but I want meaningful visibility, meaningful connection, meaning I want the right people. I want aligned people in my audience, and that's not happening for you. And so you're starting to wonder to yourself, am I doing something wrong? Like, is something wrong with my content strategy? Am I missing a strategy that if I change this one thing, all the domino chips would fall? Or worse, if this is a really bad case of this, you are starting to have this inkling of doubt. You're starting to have this little voice inside of you that is questioning if you're someone that this even works for. And I hope that's not the case. But if we got to that point, I want to tell you something very clearly. Very, very clearly. You are not doing it wrong when it comes to your content. You are not doing anything wrong. Especially if you've made consistency your BITCH and you show up like nobody's business, you are not doing it wrong. You are simply trying to solve a problem that is not a problem. So the conversation that I see all the time take place online, when it comes to like creating visibility and engagement and getting people to see you or even like buy from you. Like I see this happen all the time, and it's always entirely about strategy, always. And I know what people are doing. Like I can see right through it. I'm like, you are promoting strategy because you know that that's what people want to buy. People want to buy strategy because they see strategy equating to the secret that they're missing. And man, coming from a woman, first of all, like, let me just plug this in real quick. I've bought all the content courses. I recently, like just the other day, I bought another one, and I was so upset with myself. Like, why did you do that again? Because I got into the content course, which was like more like a masterclass, not really a course, and I was like, why did I do this? Like I fell into my own trap and I bought this course and I listened to it. And again, no shame against the woman who created it. It's me. I made a decision to buy something out of pure strategy, knowing that at my core, at my heart of hearts, like strategy is not the answer. I know strategy. I don't need someone else to tell me strategy at this point in my career. There's a lot of times where strategy is very important. But when we talk about strategy being like the most viral hooks or the posting frequency, or man, I saw someone on the other day on Threads, a really successful coach actually. She posted a thread and she said, the one thing you should be doing right now is selling a paid challenge. Like that's the one thing that's going to work. And I'm like, goodness gracious. Like, first of all, paid challenges have been around for years and they've always worked. That's not, someone's going to read that though, and they're going to be like, oh, that's going to be my answer. And they're going to go do it. And it may or may not work. And then they're going to wonder if they're not super excited about the challenge, why didn't selling this challenge work for me? It's like, can we get a little bit more intellectual here? Trending audio, algorithm hacks, like all of that. Yeah, like we, to a certain degree, we can talk about that. And I'm sure it makes a small amount of a difference, but none of it is what's actually holding you back from creating the success that you want. What's holding you back right now is it's much deeper, and it's also equally simpler. It's all an interior game. And you might be rolling your eyes at me right now and thinking like, oh, no, it's not. Like we all hear this all the time. That's cliche. Cool. If that's how you feel, respectfully, this is not the show for you. I will always talk to you about strategy. I love strategy. We can play around with strategy all day. I am a strategist, but I'm also a strategist for what's going on inside of you, because that's the only thing that's going to dictate if the strategy works. The strategy is only as good as the woman who is. And if we don't address what's happening on the inside of you, it's going to show up in your content in a way that there's no amount of editing, there's no amount of repurposing, there's no amount of getting the perfect script or the perfect hook or whatever. Even if like, the you need to get in front of other people's audiences so that more people see you, I'm all for that strategy. But if we don't address what's going on inside of you, that won't matter either. You won't be able to capitalize on it. So there's going to be, in today's show, I'm still working on this. What do I call this? Like, I'm still working on this intellectual property of mine that is very much interior work. And so today I have 8 of these that I'm going to go through, but it might shrink, it might grow over time. But right now I'm just going to practice with this because I've sat down and I've written this out of my notebook. I dive so deep into these things. This is what I geek out on all the time and try to like crack my own brain into wrapping around these ideas. And so today I want to talk about 8 real reasons that you're not getting the momentum that you want. And not a single one of them are going to be about content strategy with as like tangibility. Okay. So when I say content strategy, it's all those things I just mentioned. It's the hooks. It's having pillars. It is having a script. It's like, that is content strategy. It's the controllables basically that are physical, things that you could touch. Okay. So everything that I'm about to walk you through will point to one truth. And that truth is that, yes, strategy is important. I'm never going to tell you to just work on yourself and then all of a sudden your content is going to pop off. That's not what I'm saying here. Strategy is important, but the truth that I want you to take away from this is that strategy is the expression of the alignment that is going on inside of you. Strategy is not the source of the power. Okay? The source of the power is everything that's happening that we cannot see on the surface. So when alignment is off between all these 8 things that I'm going to talk about, the strategy cannot and will not save you. So I want to talk about alignment and what that actually means. I think that's one of those words. It's like similar to authenticity. Like everyone throws around the word alignment. You must be aligned, which I am all for. I think alignment is very important, but I think sometimes we don't really understand what these words mean. If you know anything about me, I am constantly going into Google and Google defining words. That is one of my pastimes. It's what I do. I'm like, what does this word mean? Tell me more about this word. Because I feel like we, as humans, like we have so many words that we can use and we choose to not know the depth of these words when they could be so much more powerful if we really understood what we were saying. All right. I was going to get off on another tangent. Jeez, Chandler. Okay. Let's get into the 8 reasons as to why your content is not popping off. Reason number 1, identity. Very simple. But let's go deeper. If I were to define identity, I would ask you, who are you willing to be? Who are you willing to be? So visibility will always be limited. The way that people see you will always be limited by the way that you identify yourself. Again, who are you willing to be in public? So it's like, the phrase where you say like, who are you when nobody is watching? It's also, who are you when everyone is watching? and again, you have to assume that people are watching you. You don't, just because you only have 10,000 followers, tomorrow you could have 100,000 followers. Who's to say that you can't? So are you showing up for those 10,000 followers as if that number doesn't mean anything and it's a million people? Or are you showing up and you're like, well, no one wants to see me. Like my content doesn't work. The woman who is not getting momentum in her content on her platforms, she oftentimes, and again, I've worked with hundreds of women at this point, the one who is not getting momentum, most of the time she does not believe that she is a leader yet. She doesn't believe she's an authority yet. So she might have some expertise, or she has some experience. She has receipts of transformation in herself or even in her clients, but she hasn't fully claimed the identity. And this one's tricky because the more successful women, the women who are making a lot of money, if I were to tell them, like, you don't see yourself as an authority, they would actually tell me I'm wrong. They'd be like, no, I do see myself as an authority. And then I would ask deeper questions that would reveal, like, no, you actually don't, on a very core level. And the point is not me proving to them that they don't see themselves that way. The point is, like, we need to uncover what we need to work on. And most of the time, she still sees herself as someone who is trying rather than someone who has fully arrived in her leadership. Yes, leadership is always going to evolve, and that's humility in itself. But I'm a leader. I'm a gosh darn good leader. And she's also waiting for some sort of permission that is never coming. Permission from making more money, permission from more people seeing her content, permission from who knows what. And no one gives her that permission except herself. And nobody is going to tap her on the shoulder and say, okay, now you get to be the expert. That tap is hers to give herself. And because she hasn't claimed this yet, what it shows up as is also really sneaky. It's hard to identify for most people. Like, most people would not place their finger on this, but to me, when I'm watching her, and I can tell within 2 seconds, when I watch her chit chat content, her talking head content, she speaks with a little bit of hesitation instead of full conviction. And that looks different on everyone. So one person might be convicted in one way and the other person is convicted in a different way. I can smell conviction. It's not like there's one recipe for conviction. It is a feeling. And again, it's not because she doesn't know what she's talking about. It's because she does not believe that she's allowed to show up and know it at the volume that visibility requires from her. Authority and leadership is not going to come with like a certificate or a credential. It is a pure decision that you make. You don't have to earn the right to speak convictedly. You have to internally decide that you have something that is extremely worth saying, extremely valuable, extremely useful, and then you say it like you freaking mean it with your chest. Okay? Now, that identity question, it actually lives underneath. It's like the thing underneath the thing. The identity is underneath something else, and it's the way that you see yourself. So not just who you claim to be in your identity, but who you secretly believe that you are. I created a post on this the other day on TikTok, and some of the comments were like, yes, that's like agreeing with me in the comments and saying something like, all I need to do is believe in myself more. Like, I just need to believe in myself. And that's not it either. This is what I'm getting ready to describe as number 2 is not about believing in yourself. It's not about having confidence. It's not that. Reason number 2 is self-perception. So when I say self-perception, whatever you put into your content, it cannot see what you won't say. So your self-perception, I want you to hear reason number 2. It's almost what might be the most important of the bunch. You are only going to create content from the way that you see yourself. This is not self-belief, not who you believe yourself to be, but the way that you actually see yourself. So if underneath the perfect script, the confidence that you think you're portraying when you're doing a chit chat, if underneath all of that you secretly believe, again, this is extremely fierce. If you secretly believe, like, I'm boring, I'm behind, I'm not where I should be, I'm not smart enough, I don't know if that made any sense, I don't think anybody really cares. Nobody's listening when I create chit chat videos or yapping videos. I'm going to tell you what, that is going to leak into every single post, and it will live in ways that you will not be able to see because you're too close to yourself. You're too close to it, but it'll come out in the way that you speak. It'll come out in the softness of your perspective. It'll come out in the way that you try to justify everything that you say. And it's not, again, no one's going to sit there and think, oh, her self-perception is bad. No one thinks that. It just comes across as like, I'm not connected to her. I'm not feeling it. That's it. And they just scroll past you. But for you, it feels like I don't have any momentum. What the heck is going on? So again, all of that to say, the algorithm, the content strategy, the pillars, that's not the problem here. The inner version of you that is telling yourself a story, the inner narrator, that's the problem. So if we make this extremely simple, I would say your audience, the people watching you, I don't care if it's 10 people or 10 million people, they cannot believe in you more than you believe in yourself. They cannot see you beyond what you see in yourself. And so your content is the mirror for you. And whatever lives inside of you is going to show up. So you have to fix this self-perception, this story of who you actually think you are. When self-perception is off, it shows up in your behavior, and you stop creating for your audience and you kind of like start creating for yourself. And again, I'm also not the mentor that's going to tell you like you need to speak directly to your ideal client. I feel like everything that I say, we need to go deeper on. There's so many levels to it, and I'm going to try to simplify it for you as much as I can. I'm constantly working on simplification, but the bridge here into reason number 3 is that when your self-perception is off, then you kind of lean into creating content to appease your ego versus creating content to connect. So the question for reason number 3 is like, who is your content actually for? And it can be both for you and the audience, but we need to get to the core of what that is. So ego versus connection is reason number 3. When you are in your ego, and I think this reason number 3 is probably what I see when I'm scrolling content and I'm like practicing my own coaching, which I do all the time. I'll find people that I would love to coach, and I'll ask myself like, what would I coach them through, or what would I teach them? What would I wake them up to or activate them on? This is probably the number one thing that I would call out for people is they're creating content mostly from being in their ego. Their attention is inward. And the question running through their head while they create, I can see it happening in real time. The question is like, is this going to perform? Do they like me? Am I being impressive? Is this good enough? Like, is this going to capture attention? Is this going to make me money? Is this going to make people comment the mini chat trigger word? Is this going to bring someone into my DMs? Is this going to get people to sign up for my free masterclass? Blah, 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 blah. They're all questions about her. Truly. Like, it's all in service to her. It's a little bit, dare I say, selfish. And the questions that she should be running through her head, which would create or produce connection, would be much more different. And that would be more like, how can I simplify the truth that I'm trying to speak right now? How can I simplify that? What does my audience need today? Or like, what is the idea that landed in my head and in my heart that I want to talk about today? And how do I make it beneficial for the people who consume it? How can I articulate what they're already feeling, but maybe they haven't been able to articulate it yet? It's very simple, you guys. The irony of ego-driven content is that they're trying to sound and they're trying to be more impressive, or they're trying to make more money or whatever, and it makes less of all of that. Like, it does. The woman who is visibly performing, she's got a mask on, visibly hoping that you think that she's great, that she's brilliant. It creates distance. Nobody wants to follow someone who needs them to approve of her. Nobody. Or needs them, like, no one's going to follow someone who's like constantly being manipulated like, do I need to buy from her to learn more? People are going to follow a person who is so focused on serving them that the approval is beside the point. I don't give a shit about the approval. I'm trying to connect here. Connection is not a technique. It's direction. And when you point the content like at your audience instead of at yourself, everything will change for the better. So again, simplifying this would sound like when you are trying to get something out of your content, you naturally will perform and you don't realize you're doing it, but then it becomes about you. Whereas service is about them. The audience can always tell which one they're consuming, and they will only stay for one of them, which is being served. The audience is also selfish and they have a right to be. They're consuming content. They want it to do something for them. And again, that's not always, hear me when I say like, this is not educational content. Like I'm not saying all you have to do is create educational content. People are also served in many different ways, whether that's entertainment, empowerment, education, teaching, wisdom, perspective. It's just connection though. Like what are people going to connect with? Humor is another one. Like humor is an amazing connection tool. So now if you've realized that and you become this woman who genuinely wants to serve her audience, you can also hold yourself back in another way without realizing it because, again, visibility is going to require something from you that has nothing to do with content strategy. And it's going to also require like emotional risk, which is reason number 4. So again, I just finished telling you like serve instead of take, or get. And so if you become this person who is serving, and you protect yourself emotionally and you show no vulnerability at all costs, you've now created an unconscious ceiling. So emotional safety is reason number 4 that you might not be popping off on social media. Visibility is not just a marketing activity. There's emotions involved here. And the woman who is not getting momentum right now because she's posting all the time, she might be, if this is you, protecting yourself in ways that you don't recognize. And that could be because of many different things, but let's just start with, you could be afraid of criticism or like people in your comments disagreeing with you, saying mean things to you. You could be afraid of like the people who are closest to you seeing your content and being like, what are you doing? Like, why are you posting that? And so you will round the edges off and try not to offend anyone, for example. And I'm not even talking about being spicy. Like, please, I am like so over this. You have to be a bitch on content and on social media. Like, I'm so over it. I'm so over this narrative of like, you have to be spicy. I'm talking about offending someone in a way of like, if you are fully yourself and you have emotions and you show up and you tell stories that might be a little bit vulnerable, that might offend people. And you think that to yourself. And you also could potentially, I've seen this in a couple of clients actually, you could potentially be afraid of success because success to you would mean change. It might mean losing a version of yourself and maybe relationships that you have around you that feel comfortable, familiar, safe to you, and you fear losing them if you have too much success. You might be afraid of disappointing people because if you become someone that the people that you love and know don't recognize and you outgrow them, then what does that mean? That's scary. You might be lonely. So you create emotional safety. And you also fear, like if I'm emotional or if I show the whole version of me and people have too much access to me, will I feel violated? So you unconsciously will be very digestible in your content and you keep your content just interesting enough. Like you tell yourself like, I should probably post something personal. So what you do is you go to like, what's the struggle story? What's the saddest story? What's the overcoming story that I can drop here just to achieve? I know I need to be a little bit more human. So I just want to achieve this connection here. And I'll just drop this week and I'll post it again next month or something. So that's what you lean into. and you keep your content just interesting enough to exist and keep you relevant, but not bold enough to potentially divide. And you also create content that nobody could argue with because your content doesn't say anything sharp enough to disagree with. And I'm not talking about being polarizing. I'm not talking about intentionally creating controversy. But if you are a contrarian thinker, if you're a thinker at all, people are going to disagree with you. And we kind of want that. Competition, like in debate, is very healthy. Content that can't be disagreed with also will not be remembered. Again, safe content is not seen content. And it's not about the content. It's about you trying to keep yourself safe at all costs. So the ceiling on your visibility, the cap on your visibility, is exactly as high as your willingness to be emotionally exposed. And I will say a lot of this is it's twofold. It has a lot of duality because you can't emotionally expose yourself in your content if you haven't emotionally exposed yourself to yourself. And you're not doing this on purpose. You're not keeping yourself small on purpose. You want momentum. I know that. But you are doing this because something inside of you believes that it is safer. And when you create emotional safety, might be the hardest one to admit because a lot of people are confused about content in a way where they think to themselves, like, I'm building a brand, I'm building a business. I don't need to be emotional here. Well, I just watched, again, Alex Hormozy, arguably one of the biggest thought leaders in the business mentorship space. I don't know where this clip was from. It was just something that I scrolled past, but he was talking about his experience, I think when his mom died, which was not that long ago. Again, this could all be like inaccurate timing, but he was giving his emotional experience of what happened when his mom passed away. Yet you're over there thinking, I can't share about these things because it's too personal. Nobody needs to know that. And like, also, I'm just building a brand. I'm building a business. All I want to do is get paid for my expertise. Like, they don't need to know this stuff about me. And I'm going to tell you what, you're just not being honest. This is at the end of the day, if you hear nothing else from this show, please hear this. The priority of your content is to connect with people. Connection, connection, connection. Do you only connect with someone that's trying to sell you all the time? Answer is no. Do you only connect with someone who's trying to change your mind all the time? Answer is no. As humans, we connect with humans. That doesn't mean your entire feed needs to be all of your trials and tribulations through your life. There's also going to be a lot of moments where you get to share the highs of life. And if you hold back on that because you fear that you won't appear to be humble, that's also a version of you trying to keep yourself safe. So truth is a priority, which leads us to reason number 5. Truth. Are you actually expressing in your content what you believe? Again, many layers to this because I might have to ask you, what do you believe? And if you don't have an answer to that, that's step number 1. But I would also say, I think a lot of women are creating, even if they're brilliant, like brilliant women. Again, I'm like, I only watch women that I believe are very talented at what they do. And a lot of women are creating content and saying things, and I can tell they're saying what they don't actually believe. They're saying what they think is quote unquote right, the right thing to say, or acceptable, or they dilute things, or they soften things, or they overqualify things, or they try to sound really smart, and they stay in a box because they've assigned themselves to this box. And they believe that that's the box that's going to get them seen. It's going to make them money. It's going to confirm that they're really good at what they do. And I'm going to tell you right now, that box is actually a cage. I'm also a person that will always say, you're not going to get rewarded for being loud. Like that's not the point here. The point of the truth portion is clarity. You cannot be clear about something that you don't actually believe. So, which means it would impact the way that you translate, the way that you articulate. If you're not clear on what you're saying, if you're not clear on what you believe, then it's not going to land clearly. And this can also show up if we're looking at this big picture, if you're trapped in a niche that you yourself are not obsessed with. That's another one. Huge. But you chose it because you think that this will be the thing that performs. This will be the thing that gets me success. You chose this niche because you thought it was all that you had to offer. You chose this niche or this topic because somebody told you it was the thing that you're good at and you believed them. And now you are months or years into building something that does not feel like you. You are not being truthful. And again, what I need to say with crystal clarity is that truth is not just about what you're saying in your content. Truth is about being truthful with yourself first and whether this is actually yours. Like this mission is actually yours. Whether you actually really truly believe in what you're building. If I were to ask you, okay, let's 10 times your business, 10 times your clients today, are you obsessed with it tomorrow? And the words coming out of your mouth are going to be the things that you would say if nobody was watching. And if that's not the case, well, you're not being truthful. And we've all scrolled past these people. I do feel like it's a little bit more rare, but they're out there, women who actually say what they believe and they say it with their full chest. And this is, again, I'm not talking about personality. So personality would be like someone who's really intense when they say it or someone who's really soft when they say it. That's personality. That's like a different layer. That doesn't matter as much as what I'm talking about here. It doesn't matter what the voice sounds like or the mannerisms or the gestures. It's when you feel like she's talking and she's saying what she actually believes, even if it's unpopular, even if it's extremely specific and niche, even if it, whatever, but it feels so magnetic in a way that a woman who's wearing a mask, like that version of that woman, could never do, which means it can't be replicated because it's the truth. It's her truth and no one else can take that from her. Your audience will follow clarity into a niche that they've never heard of. Your audience will follow clarity into a niche that they've never heard of, but they will not follow you into a topic that you don't really care about. Passion, man, passion. That's such a loaded topic, but that's one of those words too. Like, go Google define passion and learn more about the word passion. Passion. Passion is not a feeling. It is not a feeling at all. It's not something that you get to like, it's like, oh, I'm passionate about this. It is a frequency. And when you have passion, people can hear it. They can feel it. They can tap into it. It's not something that you get to just put on and say, oh, yep, I'm passionate about this. And when you're honest with yourself about what you actually believe, that is passion, by the way, you become capable of the sixth reason, which is knowing what doesn't belong in your content at all. So the sixth reason is, we're going to call it discernment. This is one thing, like when I'm coaching clients or I'm auditing content and I'm riffing back and forth on messaging, I do a lot of like, not say this, say that, but a lot of like, you could switch this a little bit here. Like, what do you mean by saying this here? It might land a little bit better over here. I then have to remind them to have discernment, because whatever I tell you, whatever I riff, if that ends up in your content, it's not going to do what you want it to do. You have to come up with the words yourself, but I'm a mirror to help you see where the gaps are. So discernment is huge in my world. And it's one of the reasons why I pride myself. Like, one of my core rules as a leader is to never tell you what to say. So when it comes to discernment, not every thought of yours deserves to become content. So I just got done telling you that you need more, a couple reasons ago, like you need more emotion, like you need more exposure in your content. Now it's time to adjust and understand not everything belongs in your content. Thought leaders, which is what I hope you are and you consider yourself to be, they don't document everything. Instead, they refine. They're master refiners. And again, I've been studying thought leaders, and mostly like there's not a lot of female thought leaders, which is so disappointing. And so we're here to change that. But thought leaders constantly refine their thought, and then they document the refinement. There's a version of showing up consistently that actually works against visibility. So, okay, if that's you and you're showing up consistently, it actually could be hurting you because consistency could become like extra when you don't need extra. And volume of content, which I'm huge on, by the way, like I will tell you all day, you need more, you need to post more. But if that volume is replacing the depth, if you are posting so much and so fast that you aren't really pouring the depth into the content, therefore the content is not worth remembering, that's when we have a problem with consistency. This is not a 9 to 5. This is not, you don't show up, clock in, and all of a sudden you're done because you did the task. That's not what this is. Visibility and momentum on social media will come from putting into your content something that is worth paying attention to, something that is worth remembering, something that is worth acting on, and something that is only worth remembering when the person who created it has the discernment to decide that it was ready to post. And so these thoughts have been processed, they've been refined, they've been alchemized into something that can actually move somebody, activate somebody. And this does not mean post less. Like post less. I would never tell you to post less unless you need to slow down and refine your thoughts. But it does mean that every single post should have an underlying mission. That is discernment. That is being awake. You need to wake up. So even the posts that look a little surface level, if they're a little casual, like whatever, discernment is knowing that underneath everything you put out there, there's a reason that it deserves to exist. There's a North Star to everything that you're doing. And if that North Star isn't there, you don't post it. All right. So more content is not the answer. I want to be careful. Like I'm like, do I say this? I feel like more content is not the answer if content isn't worth stopping the scroll for. So if you're in this season where you're like, I'm going to post, and yet you're creating poor trash content that isn't strong, then that's not going to be the thing that gets you to their tipping point. The consistency or the volume there is not the answer. However, if you shift your thought just a little bit and you're like, I'm going to post a ton, but I'm going to have discernment as a filter between thinking something and then saying it, then the woman with discernment is going to be the one whose content people obsess over. The one, like, they're going to come back, they're going to wake up in the morning and they're like, I need to search this girl's name. I want to see what she posted today, because when she speaks, I can tell like she has already full body yes decided this is a really good post and this really matters. And so it matters to them. When it matters to you, it matters to them. When you have discernment and you put into your content something that is much more rare than just putting information into your content, then you can create intimacy. So reason number 7 that your content is not popping off yet and you haven't created momentum could be that you lack intimacy. And when you lack intimacy, it's like, you need to know that your audience, does not want to be impressed, and they don't care to be impressed by you. They want to be understood by you. So if you are a person who is like, okay, Chandler's telling me to be a thought leader, I need to refine my thoughts and I need to just put information into my content, that's not going to work for you. It is simple, but it's not that simple. So what I'm saying is, if you add intimacy into your, call it informational post if you want to, I would never call it that, but you know what I'm talking about, where you're providing perspective. And like someone's going to get a quick win from it. They're going to feel a dopamine rush because they're like, oh, I never thought of it that way. They're going to follow that type of content that makes them feel understood at the same time. So 2 very different emotional experiences that you can create for your audience is, number 1, you are impressive. And number 2 would be, oh, like she gets me, from the audience perspective. So number 1 would be like your audience thinks like, oh, she's impressive. Or number 2, like, oh, she gets me. Not the same thing. 2 totally different experiences. And I would also go as far to say those experiences produce an entirely different result. when it comes to the outcomes. An impressive creator will be admired 100%. You will be admired. It'll feel good for 2 seconds. The creator who makes her audience feel understood, that is legacy. That is being followed. They're going to pay you to learn more from you. They're going to want everything from you because you allow them to feel understood in a way that nobody else can. Trust is not built by demonstrating how much you know. Nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And they will know how much you care when they feel understood by you. Trust is built by demonstrating that you understand where your audience is, what they're going through, what they're carrying, what they're afraid of, what they honestly need to hear, and then speaking directly to that. If you're questioning how to do all of this, by the way, I teach all of this inside of the Evolution Content Membership. You will become a master at these things. But when you create content, the question is not going to be, what do I know that I can teach today? The question is going to be, what do I think my audience already feels that I can name for them and speak to and like elaborate on? It's not just always about giving answers. So the creator who can articulate and speak to what her audience is feeling before they've found these words themselves. And again, you're not sitting there saying like, oh, I need to find the words that they haven't found themselves. You're sitting there thinking like, if I were to really see this person, and again, a lot of seeing is listening. So I would also suggest like, go find some of your potentially ideal target audience or clients, whatever, and pay attention to them. Like literally take notes on what they're doing and what they're saying and diagnose what you think they're feeling. Start to seek to understand them. And that will, when you put that into your content after you've done some studying, people aren't going to just think you're smart. They're going to think like, she knows me. How does she know me? And again, that is a very different experience, and it's going to change how you create content. It's going to change how you are perceived in your content. All right, this leads us to our last reason as to why you're not experiencing momentum on social media the way that you want to is, again, this probably should have been number one, but underneath identity, underneath self-perception, underneath ego, underneath emotional safety or truth or discernment and intimacy, the deepest reason that you are not popping off is basically that it should be why you want visibility in the first place. But reason number 8 is purpose. You are seeing visibility as the goal versus seeing visibility as the vehicle. You are seeing visibility as the end destination versus seeing visibility as an asset that's going to allow you to do what you really want to do. And I need you to lean in, go grab some Q-tips and clean out your ears because this is the most important reason of them all. If you are not experiencing success on social media, 9 times out of 10, it might be for this reason. Why do you want visibility? If visibility is the goal and you're like, I just want to go viral, I just want more people, my followers, like I could sell more. If that's the destination, if that's the metric, if that's like the measure of whether or not you're succeeding, then every single post of yours is going to be a referendum on your worth. You are literally going to create a post, publish it, and then wait, and then scroll, and then refresh, and then see who likes it, check the numbers, like interpret the silence as rejection. Interpret the traction as validation and, oh, this must be good. I must be worthy. And your emotional state is honestly, it's held hostage by whatever the algorithm decides to do that day. And you're seeing it as people deciding to watch you and listen to you and view you. It is not that. And so you have anxiety. You feel chronic, low-grade anxiety that lives in every single piece of content that you can then make. And you can't get away from it. And then you're wondering, why am I not getting visibility? You're a mess. It's chaotic. But if you, on the flip side, treat visibility as a vehicle, knowing if I just get seen, then I can do the real work. I need people to know that I exist so that I can do the real work of what I'm here to do. Your content will change, actually. because you won't be trying to just get people to see you or get people to buy from you. You'll be serving to a level that you've never done before. And if visibility means that you get to do that work and that mission and share your message and your real offer in front of the people who need it the most, then every single post becomes an opportunity for you to serve. And you will create a post, share it with the world, and move on because your job there was to give, not to receive. That has been my reality lately. I wake up very early in the morning, I do my morning routine, and then I get on my, because it's hot as balls here, I get on my treadmill and I will edit one of my chit chat videos that I likely recorded the day before. And I will post it, I will edit it, I will post it, and I put it out into the abyss, and I don't even pay attention to the metrics until probably lunchtime or something. Like I will open it up and I will respond to comments. But it feels like freedom because I know what I'm doing. I'm using visibility as my vehicle. And when you have that, when you feel that level of freedom, paradoxically, it actually makes your content better. Okay. Meaningful visibility. Those are the 8 reasons, by the way. But meaningful visibility, I'm going to tell you what. I should have just said this and then ended the freaking podcast at this one sentence. Meaningful visibility comes from being dedicated to your craft. Period. Not your follower count, not your views, not the aesthetic, not the content pillars, not your brand voice document, not your anything else. Visibility, the right kind, the aligned visibility that you want, will only come from being dedicated to your craft, excellence at your craft. The thing that you actually do, the thing that you actually believe, the thing that you wake up and get excited about. The goal here is to become excellent at what you do and to not keep it all to yourself. Become excellent at what you do and translate that excellent into your content so that you can help other people become excellent and use your excellence. You have to become useful, not interesting. You are interesting. You don't have to try to be interesting. It's about becoming useful. When we talk about purpose, it's not in the title of what you do. It's not even in any of your accolades. Like all these people out here, posting how much money they're making and stuff. Like, yes, that's impressive, but like, I feel nothing from that. I feel nothing from it. I want you to understand that your purpose doesn't come from any of that stuff. The purpose is the obsession with being the absolute best at what you do. And the commitment that as you become that, you give it away in a way that people can actually receive it and apply it. That obsession is actually what will give you content worth, like you want to go viral, that's the strategy. Obsession over your craft and putting it into your content. It makes your content worth following. It makes you worth being led by. And that obsession is the only sustainable source of visibility because it will not depend on external validation to keep it running. If you want visibility so that people see you, you will be anxious forever about this. You will always feel like you're failing. If you want visibility so that how do I say this? If you want visibility so people can use what you know, then you will never run out of things to say. The first is about you. If you're using visibility so people see you, it's about you. The second, using visibility so that you can help people, is about them. And only one of them is going to work. So those are the 8 reasons. And again, none of those are about content strategy. All of them are about the same thing, and it's who you are when you create your content, what you believe about yourself, about your audience, about why any of this matters to you. There will be people who create content and want a big business and a big brand, and they don't see it through because they don't understand this. They will give up. Even 5 years in, they will burn it all down because they don't understand this. If you are building a business built off of being visible and being seen and being liked and being paid, this is not going to be sustainable for you. If you're building a business off of the source of expressing your own alignment and excellence in order to help other people, You're going to create legacy impact and money, and you won't even be trying to. And you're probably sitting there thinking like, well, you haven't done that yet. Sure. That you would be accurate. I am going to. And I believe that to my core. And you can come with me if you want to. And when the alignment is not there, there's not going to be any amount of strategy that's going to rescue that. All right. I love this conversation. Again, I kind of feel like you will come into my world at any entry point and you will learn strategy. But there will always be an underlying conversation of this stuff, because there will be a point as to which the strategy won't work for you if you're not focusing on this. So I hope you loved this. I hope this gave you some food for thought. I hope that you have a beautiful rest of your day. Thank you so much for being here. Mwah! See you next week.